Welcome into the Paul Kuharsky podcast. I'm Paul Kuharsky at paulkuharsky.com, part of the wonderful 440 network brought to you by Zen Sports. Good to see some of you jumping into the room. Let's retweet, spread the word, get a good conversation about the Titans going on here. And then we'll spread it around through all the outlets, Apple, Spotify, iHeart. It'll be live on Twitter and YouTube as well. Some Braves fans in here watching the Braves while the Yankees are on, unless the Yankees are done winning already, which is probably pretty likely. Feel free to send me a score. Focus is asking if the Titans could sign Simmons. Simmons got a huge contract a couple years ago. It's time for Simmons to live up to the contract, not to give him more money. Come on. Bad start there, Focus. Bad start. Couple topics I want to talk about before we get into the always fantastic conversation segment of this fine podcast. Thank you for coming again. First is roster turnover. Last year, this team turned over, I believe, 45.3% of its opening day roster from one year to the next. This year, so far, 35.1% of the 57 players who were on the opening day roster. I'm getting it from 53 to 57 by counting NPF, who was suspended, Haskins, who was on the commissioner's list, Farley, who was on PUP, and Phillips who was on IR. So last year, out of those 57, 37 are around. I think there are 13 more who are certainly not locks going forward. Haskins, Gifford, Matthew Jackson, Anthony Kendall, Caleb Murphy, Kearis Jackson, Trey Avery, Julius Chestnut, Jack Gibbons, Mike Brown, Caleb Farley, Kyle Phillips, and to a much lesser degree, NWI. Let's say 8 of those 13 were gone. That would be 80% turnover, massive turnover. That would get you, I may have done the math wrong there. That would get you from 37 down to, that would get you from 37 of 57 back to 29 of 57 back-to-back years of massive turnover. Obviously what this team needs. But when you're talking about the echoes of Robinson or even the echoes of Vrabel, then there's not a lot of it left on the roster if you get to that point, right? So big times. Not 8 out of 80%'s wrong there. Somebody do that for me. 29 of 57. 29 of 57 this year after 45% last year. Any sign, Will is asking, any sign from practice how the backfield and the tight ends will be used in the passing game? I mean, the running backs are, what you'd expect, and the tight ends are something almost 50% turnover this year after 45% last year. So that's a hell of a lot of new. Focus was talking Justin Simmons, which I don't know how I was supposed to know that. Sloppy start there by PK. The other thing I wanted to talk about was more of a league issue, spun off of some Robbie and Rex Road this morning. This not great veteran quarterback signing decision, like Trevor Lawrence is coming up for the Jaguars. I feel pretty good about Trevor Lawrence still. If I'm the Jaguars, when my choice is sign Trevor Lawrence or go find another quarterback, you have to find ways to win with quarterbacks in the NFL who are not Patrick Mahomes, because there are way too many fans and a couple too many radio personalities who say, yeah, you got to go find Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, who hasn't won a Super Bowl, or Joe Burrow, who hasn't won a Super Bowl, both of whom I love, by the way. But you can't go find those guys. There are too few of them out there. So you've got to re-sign Trevor Lawrence. You've got to re-sign Tua in Miami. The thing is that those guys are not the same caliber as the top guys. And this happens at other positions too, to a degree, but to a smaller number of guys at the top, where the franchise tag dictates the price of all of the top guys. But for a starting quarterback, that franchise tag for the first year and that franchise tag plus whatever percent for the second year dictate the first 2 years of guaranteed money in that contract. Now, you might be able to work it from there, but those are huge, huge numbers. And that dictates the price for a lot of quarterbacks who are not worth that money. So you're deciding, do we pay our guy that money even though we know he's not worth that money, instead of going back out and looking for another quarterback? Or do we go out and look for that other quarterback? And most of the time, teams pay their guy that money or more, and it's not worth it. It throws off your salary cap and stuff. I think the league, it's never going to happen because it's such a quarterback-driven league, but you have to find a way where there's a mechanism to pay quarterbacks who are not top 10 quarterbacks a middling quarterback salary, which is still huge money, but which does not handcuff you in the way you could be handcuffed now if you sign Trevor Lawrence or Tua Tagovailoa to the kind of deal that the market dictates now. And I think that's a problem in the league that impacts a lot of these teams, because you make investments in those two guys now, and in a year and a half, they're hurt again, or they're spiraling in the wrong direction for you, and you decide you got to reset at quarterback, you're screwed. And it shouldn't be so hard to get out once you get in. I think teams have gotten more creative with it, but there are too many quarterbacks. And those guys are on the better end of the middle pack of the quarterbacks. But there are too many guys at quarterback who aren't good enough to get the money that they get. So that's my beef with a middling quarterback contract. On to your questions. Safety, everybody is, this timetable on safety. I mean, Robert's asking about it. Timetable on safety signings, my guess. I mean, I haven't checked in on any of it. Not that I would necessarily get any information, but I wouldn't expect a safety here before training camp if they're signing a veteran safety. There's no movement anywhere in the league on May, on Simmons, on Diggs. There's three pretty good veteran safeties to varying degrees, clearly. And the Titans know who else needs safeties. They know the salary cap situation of those teams who need safeties, and they're going to wait it out. And there's no reason they shouldn't wait it out. They don't have to jump. Now, if one of them goes off the table, that maybe puts a little bit more pressure on you to get one of the other two. There's no indication they're interested in Diggs. I think Diggs, to me would be, a close third to the other two. But, it's just kind of burning a hole in everybody's pocket. And I mean, I understand, but they don't have a game until what? September 9th? September 8th. It's May 23rd. And come to terms with the idea that, maybe they don't. Maybe they don't see these guys as that much better than Elijah Molden, and they go thin at safety. for whatever reason, and we knew every hole on this team wasn't going to be filled, and that might not get filled. But there's no ticking clock right now. There isn't. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there were a couple conversations with Vin Marino while everybody's on vacation after camp ends, and not a lot done. I mean, it could get done early post OTAs, but Jonathan Gall says it's not helping. The newer draft picks haven't been hitting in terms of that roster turnover. Of course, that's the reason that the roster has been in such trouble. Would I take, Jonathan Merck wants to know, would I take Trevor Lawrence as is or Will Levis? I think I'd take Trevor Lawrence as is. I mean, we're awfully optimistic about Will Levis, but there is an awful lot that we don't know about Will Levis. And Trevor Lawrence was hurt last year. I mean, I don't mean to make excuses for him, but he's hurt last year, banged up. And, he had the Urban Meyer year, which was a disaster. And, that's 2 out of 3 right there. He's been through couple transitions down there in Jacksonville. And I still think, he was the number 1 pick in the draft for a reason. And he's certainly on the made it side as opposed to the wasn't worth it side. Now he's not an all-time great number 1 quarterback, but he's far from the scrap heap. Glory Days wants to know, do we see any cross-training on James Williams at safety and inside linebacker with the lack of depth at both positions? Absolutely not. He's a linebacker. Cross-train a guy, a rookie, you want to come in and play 2 positions? No. Do left guard and tackle look soft? Well, center better be solved. I mean, they signed the best center on the market. Of course, center is solved. Left guard? Why would left guard be solved? I mean, there's a good competition to be had at left guard between Charles, Radens, and Brunskill. That's not going to be solved, I wouldn't think, until, preseason's over. I hope everybody is able to stay healthy there so that they could have a legitimate training camp competition. There haven't been many of those, unfortunately. So, don't know the details on being asked here about NPF shoulder. Don't know that it's his shoulder. My presumption would be that NPF's still recovering, from the shoulder injury that ended his season last year. I presume that shoulder was November, right? December, January, February, March, April, May would be in 6 months. Left guard is Skoronski. Sorry. Yeah, left guard is absolutely solid. Sorry. For some reason, I was going right guard there. Off today. Saved shoulders last year for NPF. Presume that he's, at the still, finishing up his rehab from his injury from last year. If it's a new injury, I have no idea. So we got Glory Holtz and the Glory Day Sports. The big corporation Glory Day Sports in here. I suspect there's going to be a big battle here. I've seen Malik one day as the 3rd quarterback. Noticed one bad throw. I think that question about Petit Frere getting the right tackle spot. Do I think he'll get the right tackle spot? I think he'll be at the head of the line. But I haven't seen the line yet because Petit Frere and Petit Frere and Duncan weren't out there because presumably, I know that Duncan was rehabbing. Presume that and we know that MPF was rehabbing, so they're both rehabbing. Yeah. Adam asks if I saw the Callahan interview with Bussing. Every time you hear him talk football, you grow more confident. That hasn't always been the case. Wiz used to make you cringe with his use of versatile. Wiz is like a long, long time ago. I didn't watch the interview. I read the transcript. It seemed to me like a pretty boring interview that didn't really till any new land, new soil, right? But yeah, I mean, it's encouraging. Callahan's an encouraging guy. Was the amount of throwing at OTAs really that much more than usual? John Gall asks. I don't think so. I can't remember who tweeted that there were more throws in that one practice than there were in a month or whatever. Was it Austin Stanley maybe? I think that's a little overblown. And Jonathan Merck points out, every new coach is encouraging, which is true. Like if you had Vrabel on that bus on May 23rd in his first year, you were excited about that too. And you need to remember that. So it's not a lot different. Yankees won 5-0. We're all excited about that. Chelsea's looking for a new coach. We're not excited about that. Simon's travel baseball season begins Saturday. We're very excited about that. He got promoted out of 8th grade yesterday. We're very excited about that. Going to Noah Khan. He's very excited about that. Terry McCormick said that. I think that's a big exaggeration. I will say, in the team period, which is not reportable, I was working on some tweets of stuff that was reportable. But, they have passing periods all the time that wouldn't have that much running in them. So, that doesn't make it. There are plenty of practices with Vrabel, with coaches before him where, you'd see all pass, mostly pass, etc. What else do we have? Let's retweet. Let's wherever we're watching, let's subscribe. Let's rate. Let's review. I think we should do all of those things today. This seems like a good day to me to do those things. I'm fired up. Like I said, got a lot of family stuff going on for Memorial Day weekend. A couple graduation parties of friends, kids. So that's exciting. It looks like the weather might be cooperative. So I hope we all get that. I want to tell you about Zen Sports, my sponsor of this fine podcast. You need to go download the app, get it on your phone, and start looking over betting possibilities there. NBA playoffs in particular, hot right now. A lot of good baseball opportunities there. College baseball. You go there, you use the code TNPaul and bet as little as $10. They'll give you a free membership to the site. I think most of you look like members right now, but you can tell a friend. Also, you can just go there and you use that code because it helps me, but then you can make a first bet, no danger first wager up to $1,000, up to plus 500. You land a great bet. You finance your betting account for a good while if you bet like me. And if you miss, you sleep peacefully because you are no skin off your back. Oh, great place. They've been great to me. They'll be great to you. Betting just got better. Zen Sports. You might even be able to, if you're watching, scan that QR code and head there just from there. Look, it takes a lot to cover my bald head, but I think I've accomplished that. So if you're watching, scan that QR code, head to Zen Sports, use code TN Paul, and take it from there. I'm happy that you're here. We've got an open OTA, I believe, next Wednesday. And then it picks up a little bit the week after that, I think first week of June. So what else do we have here? When are we doing a member meetup? Jordan wants to know. I don't know. And Richard wants me to make a guess for the Titans record, and probably will do it before the season starts because I'll pick the playoff field, but I'm certainly not doing it now. Just no reason. Glory says Callahan is essentially saying we're going to sit down and listen to God's feelings and concerns. I'm concerned he compromises with everyone. The guys who complain more often get better treatment. Give me more context for him saying that. And I will say, as I read the first half of that, Glory, I was thinking, that Vrabel listened to guys' concerns. He emphasized multiple times that if a guy had some kind of personal issue going on at home, or something like that, they were always sympathetic and compassionate and wanted people to take care of family stuff and personal stuff so that they wouldn't be distracted at work. I thought that was a practical way to work and a people first kind of way to work. And it struck me. So, but you're thinking squeaky wheel gets the grease here from Callahan, but I don't know really what you're basing that on. I haven't gotten that sense. Adam wants to know how tired I am of seeing Burks questions. Like, what are they supposed to do besides praise him? I want to talk to Burks. And, Titans took requests for who we would talk to. This is one bad development that they're limiting who we could talk to. Typically at an OTA practice like we had early this week, you'd be able to grab anybody coming off the field. Now, you could only get one or two guys if you wanted any depth, 3 or 4 if you were going to be quick. Then they'd bring a few guys to the podium for their TV show. For them to be able to broadcast interviews. But I want to talk to Treylon Burks. I think Treylon Burks is a big story right now. What are they supposed to do besides praise him? Well, they didn't praise him initially. Now he's put in some good work, and they like what they've seen, and they've praised him more. So what are they supposed to do? I think I'd like for them to be honest about what he's doing, what everybody's doing. Yeah, new guy muffing one punt. So Jaquan Jackson dropped 1 punt. Somebody else might have dropped a punt, by the way, that I didn't see before I got over to the punt areas. So any special teams chatter? No. Adam, we've kind of covered this ground. Adam says, do I think Bill Callahan's impact is being overblown? People seem to be looking at him as a savior. Bill Callahan can't make a guy who can't play, I don't think. He'll make him better. But Bill Callahan could take a good player and make him a better player. And Bill Callahan could take a very good player and make him a very, very good player. Everyone was upset with the bad coaching, what they thought was bad coaching by people like Keith Carter, by people like Jason Hoteling. And now they got themselves a big offensive line coach. And they're saying, hey, are we overestimating this guy? Get the best position coaches you can get and expect big things from them. I think that's fair. And most people, I don't know, are expecting too much from him. Most people still seem to be upset with the idea that the right tackle's probably going to be NPF or Jalen Duncan. That's a lot of the sentiment that I'm getting. A lot of people don't like necessarily the right guard options. So I don't know if I agree with your premise entirely, but I think the expectation is he's an excellent position coach who should get better play out of his guys. And certainly one area that as recently as last year, we've seen him have great effect is having guys ready for depth purposes. They played 4 left tackles, I think, in Cleveland and survived that scenario. The Titans couldn't survive playing 2 left tackles. They couldn't survive playing 1 left tackle, frankly. So, I don't know why there's any inclination to pick him apart as being overrated as somebody that can help the team out. You should be thrilled to have him. Let's repost this on Twitter, if you will. I would appreciate it. And coming back to your questions here. Wow. All right. Sorry. Got lost there for a second. By the way, Jordan, the restaurant you're suggesting I don't have a relationship with anymore, that would be a good place to get together. Josh Robbins says, I know we aren't expecting much out of him, but has Farley been a full participant, and does he look quick or slow? Again, one practice. So people are making it like there's a big body of work that we've been watching. There isn't. There's one body of work. He was out there as a full participant, low ranking, and looked like a low ranking cornerback to me. Any comments on the A to Z reporter that's currently on Survivor? I didn't think that was a public thing. I think I'm not supposed to talk about it. G asking about Burks on the trade block, which he keeps reading. Why would they put him on the trade block? It makes no sense. He's got no value. They finally potentially have some depth at wide receiver. Why would they immediately trade it away? Brett Wallace on the timetable for Stonehouse coming back. I think it could be, start a camp. I think it could go into camp based on what I know. Mr. Jenkins, Callahan gets a lot of credit for developing quarterbacks in Cincinnati, with the setup being similar here. And Charles London got a lot of credit for helping Will Levis last year. Who will have a bigger impact on Willis this year, Holtz or Hardigree? Oh, I would go in pecking order. Callahan, number 1, head coach, who's a quarterback guy and an offensive guy. Offensive coordinator, 2nd. And quarterback coach 3rd. But it's a collective operation, and I think collectively they'll all have a hand in it. I don't think it's healthy or smart or necessary to divvy up. Hardigree had 30%, and so and so gets this percent, so and so gets that percent. We're never going to know that kind of stuff, and it doesn't matter as long as he got. As it gets where you want them to go. Rashid Jenkins is asking about Levis stuff that got leaked. If stuff of me got leaked, I wouldn't want people to be talking about it. I'm going to give Levis respect and not talk about it. It's not my business. It's not your business. John Gall asking, did you hear from Holtz a lot during OTAs? Again, there's been 1 rookie practice and 1 veteran practice that have been open. You guys are making it like we're out there every day like this is training camp. 2 practices. Did I hear from him a lot? Like, did he speak to the media during this? No. Do I hear from him a lot? Like, he's more vocal during practice, during offensive stuff than Callahan is. Callahan is pretty quiet. Fish split. Any plans on breaking down the new Will Levis tape? Tape of Will Levis running through bags, the same stuff that we get at the beginning of practice, or throwing to receivers on air? I mean, let's address this misconception. You guys are thinking that we're watching training camp practices. We're watching practices with no contact, where receivers and DBs are not at all physical with each other. There's not a lot to break down here. And the best breakdownable stuff is not allowed to be filmed. Yeah, I know what they're talking about, G. Oh, breaking down that tape? Yeah, no, we're not breaking down that tape. Didn't you just hear what I said about minding a guy's privacy? Levis reminds Steve of Brett Favre. You're expecting some spectacular completions and some spectacular interceptions. Well, Brett Favre is a first ballot Hall of Famer. So that's an awfully big expectation and comparison. Billy says, with regard to the Malik question, he's going to be inactive. What a dumb question. I think it's presumptive to presume he's going to be inactive. Be better served for him not to be on the roster or to be on the practice squad. Gee, it's such a dumb question. Oh, you got me. Light bulb moment. I want you to head out and go watch the tape if you're so excited to watch a presumably naked guy in private moments with his date. What else do we have in here? Richard, how much larger is the Titans organization from last year to this year, added departments, et cetera? It's been a relatively gradual build. I could look at it side by side. They haven't finished putting everybody in the website, but the ticketing / new Nissan Stadium selling department, not just selling, but things involving stadium liaison and all of that is bigger. There's 3 new people in the strength and conditioning department, so that's bigger. Coaching staff might be a person or 2 bigger. I'm not sure. Analytics is growing. So there's stuff going on everywhere, but it's not giant. Leon Strife, what's the best case scenario for Burks this year? Well, unfortunately, the best case scenario for Burks this year involves somebody getting hurt in front of Burks. So Burks being healthy, one of the top 3 in front of him going down, and him having a healthy, productive season, substituting for Hopkins or Ridley or Boyd would be the ideal situation for Burks. And then him, being a resurrection guy with a lot of promise heading into 2025. Robert says he sees the Titans. I saw the Titans are renting parking spaces for games. I fully expect chaos on Sundays until people get used to it. I mean, I think they're going to be pretty clear about people already who had parking spots in lots that don't exist anymore. I've been, offered spots in lots. I don't know how renting a parking spot is any different than purchasing a parking space in a lot, or purchasing a pass to a lot. So, if people are idiots for the first game over there that they go to, be it the preseason game or opening day, then there could be a game of chaos. But they should be smarter than that, in which case, hopefully it won't be that bad. I would try to Uber there, which shouldn't be hard, from your house, and then, walk a mile to Uber out, but that would be hard. Brooks asks if I miss radio on a daily basis. I do, which leads me to share with you that I will be substituting for Robbie Stanley tomorrow morning on Robbie and Rex Road. I'm 102.5 The Game, 6 to 9. Appointment listening. I would tune in if I were you. A lot of Burks conversation going on in the chats here. Disappointing him being a first-round pick at all. Sure. Production out of first-round picks has been insufficient for the most part. And that's a big reason why they are in a rebuilding phase, and there's not a lot of confidence in them based on lack of star power. The the third quarterback thing, going back to Malik for a minute, I just I don't. You're not going to have a third quarterback active. The thing where an inactive third quarterback is available to you is, it came out of a very rare circumstance with San Francisco in the playoffs a couple of years ago. To me, the way to play it is to have a quarterback on your practice squad who's available to be called up to you when you have somebody get hurt in a game, and you can make it through a game with two quarterbacks, generally speaking. An emergency situation, you go to NWI or somebody like that who can get you through a game, making a couple short passes and handing off generally. When's the last time we've seen the Titans need to go to a third quarterback? Never. So that's that. CH asks, could Malik Willis see special teams snaps similar to what Pittsburgh was discussing with Fields? We've seen Malik Willis mishandle balls on the kind of exchanges that I'm imagining Pittsburgh making with Fields on special teams. So it doesn't make me say, ooh, they could do something clever with Malik here. It makes me say, ooh, another opportunity for Malik to mishandle a ball and give the Titans terrible field position with a bad turnover. Yeah, so Adam's following up his stuff about Bill Callahan. He says, I wasn't overrating Bill Callahan. I think he's great. I just know he can't turn water into wine with the right side. I mean, this idea that Nicolas Petit-Frere is horrific based off what happened last year, I think is misguided. And I've written this. He had a reasonable rookie year, needed some help. He was part of a terrible line. He was a third-round pick who played right tackle. Then last year was, a result of a suspension, which led to him being played in weird situations in training camp. Then he came back. It took him a while to get his footing. Then he played one game where he moved. He played one game at left tackle, one game at right tackle, and then he got hurt. So he played like 3 games. He wasn't good. Nobody on the offensive line was good, really. And so those 3 games wash away a rookie year that was okay. I look at his rookie year and I say, well, there's the kind of guy that Bill Callahan should be able to take and make into, at the very least, the weak starter on an offensive line. So I don't understand how NPF in a league on a team that can't fix every hole in one offseason, how the fan base is out on NPF already. Like, it doesn't want to see what he is after Bill Callahan works with him. I'm dying to see what he is after Bill Callahan works with him. Richard's asking about the time frame for safety. Covered it early. Jared Gibson following up. I don't understand why you guys are in such a hurry. Prices go down over time generally. Nobody else is jumping on them. Why panic? Dwayne's ready to eat the 2 draft picks it took to draft Willis and move on. I generally am too. This I don't get. Like, well, I mean, Jack says, I wanted Malik Willis to be good. I really did, but he looks bad every time he touches the field. I mean, did you want him to be good because he was a Titans draft pick and you want Titans draft picks to be good? You know, I think most Titans fans would agree with that. You draft somebody, you want them to be good. But after a certain point, people just, it's funny to me, like certain guys, NPF has to be out the door. But there's another segment of the fan base that think like Malik hasn't been given a fair chance and should be in competition with Mason Rudolph as opposed to, you know, a third guy who's probably on his way out. He can always make the first man miss. How about throwing before the first man's on you? That's what a quarterback should do most of the time. Yeah, Jay says people desperately wanted Malik to replace Steve McNair. I don't know about that, but I don't understand how you fall in love with a guy like that. Like, first you have to do something. Do something and win the fan base. Like, okay, you showed up. I'm excited. The team drafted you. I'm going to root for you. I'm watching you now. Okay, I'm watching. It's not good. I'm watching. It's not good. All right, you're not winning me over. I'm watching. It's getting worse. You're not winning me over. I don't understand this other thing where, like, okay, you've showed up. Wow, that was bad. Oh, well, this went wrong for him. That went wrong for him. They're not giving him a fair chance. Oh, the people are against him. Oh, this poor guy. He's actually better than Tannehill. They're just not getting. I mean, I don't understand all of the logic. Richard wants to know if Willis will get a spot on the practice squad. I mean, how can we know that if he's not been through a training camp with his new coaches? Some of these questions are way premature. The slight physical resemblance, I think you're being pretty basic there. I see one predominant physical resemblance. Josh, there is no camp. How's the feeling at camp last year compared to previous? Well, I'll tell you, this camp, which starts in late July, is going to be upbeat. And it's going to feel a lot like last year's camp. But it's a better conversation, that cliched conversation to have about camp when there's actually camp. These OTAs, non-padded, non-contact, don't tell you a heck of a lot. Plus, we've seen one rookie practice and one practice. Plus, practice is about an hour and 15 minutes. Hey, Leon. Chase McCabe is the guy at the game. Chase McCabe. Feel free to go to the zone, too. I'm sure that'll go over very well. Ridley did look good. Looked like you would expect him to in the limited things that we saw him do. Do I feel like Rand did a better job communicating this offseason? A little bit. I mean, I was lucky enough to get 20 minutes or so with him at the owners' meetings. Had I not gone to Orlando, I probably would have a different answer. He showed up at one press conference unexpectedly. I still wish that he would do more. And there are ways for him to be a communicator that you wouldn't necessarily see or know about, that I still hope he and I get better at. Richard says, interesting if Callahan pass attack doesn't work and then ground and pound Vrabel starts to look good. Why can't a running game with Pollard and Tajay Spears look good? A modern running attack where passing to the backs is part of it. You're leaving that out. Kim is being funny here. That other guy tried to be funny, and I put him on a timeout. Kim is being really funny. Now that Mickey has moved on, would I ever consider working with Blaine? Blaine's a good guy. You know my history with Blaine on the air, Kim? It's probably out there on the interwebs. That time slot's right in the middle of a lot of Titan stuff. I didn't think Mickey got a fair shake there. I feel badly for him. I think he might have had the best number at the Zone in the most recent book. That show somehow. And I don't know that that's a fair thing to happen to him. Some of the questions are getting weird here. Jason Jenkins, with Callie being more transparent when answering questions, is there a balancing act required not to push the envelope too much so he won't shut down, or should that not be a worry? Like with any coach, I think we should all ask whatever we want to know. And Vrabel said this. It's your job to ask questions. I'll control how I answer them. I mean, I'm not going to ask Callahan outlandish things. And I think the only question that's relevant here is like when things are going badly, how is he going to react to those things? But I'm not, probably there will be Nashville media who will tiptoe with Callahan because they tiptoe with everything. But push the envelope, I don't know about that, but I'm going to ask him things that I never would have asked Vrabel because I know Vrabel never would have answered them. Now a new guy's in town, so I see what he'll tell us. I'll use this as an example. It doesn't quite fit what you're doing, but there were players on the infamous third field that during Vrabel's era was off the record. You're only allowed to watch what's going on the main two fields. You could know who was working out on that third field, injured guys rehabbing to come back, but you were not allowed to say anything about what's going on there. Reporters had a short conversation about, what do we do now with Callahan and this third field? And somebody was going to ask the PR director about it. I said, no. Let's not ask the PR director because the PR director is going to tell us. We never get anything back from PR. Once something's taken away, it stays away for good. I said, let's ask Callahan. After Callahan's done talking at the podium, I'll facilitate that. We'll ask Callahan. So Callahan was done talking at the podium, and after he stepped away, I said, hey, and a couple of us huddled, and I asked him, I said, what would you like us to do with regard to the guys who are on the third practice field? And we had a nice conversation, and lo and behold, he said that we could say who was on the third practice field. He's not going to tell us what they're working on, what their injury is, what they're coming back from, whatever. Now, we could always ask those questions. We don't know where it's going to go. But there, we just gained something back because Callahan's more open. And I think because we went directly to Callahan. So somebody who's, presuming the status quo is the way to go wasn't involved in it. So now you'll hear us say, oh, Elijah Molden and Jarvis Brownlee and Kenneth Murray were on the third field working out at the beginning of practice. And ultimately Molden and Brownlee joined practice late. Murray did not. So there's information that you learn out of this OTA practice that you would not have learned out of a Mike Vrabel practice. Now, in a Mike Vrabel practice, we would have said Molden and Brownlee. I don't know. We might have even gotten in trouble for saying or turned heads for saying they joined late. They just would have counted as present versus not present. And Kenneth Murray would have counted as not present, not seen on the field with the Titans. So that's I don't know if that's interesting or not, but there's some information. Is Jim Wyatt the PR guy? No, Jim Wyatt writes. He's a senior editor, maybe is his title, but he writes. They have a whole department of public relations officials, 4, maybe 5. What does Burks have to do to get a year 4? Produce in year 3. It's pretty simple. And, if Hopkins, if they just, if he produces this year and they decide, depending on what happens with Hopkins this year, maybe Hopkins isn't back or has opportunity somewhere else, who knows? But, everything is based on what he does this year. Yeah. Robert's asking me about Nashville SC being covered on the game, the zone. It's not my field, Robert. I wouldn't be talking about them much either. I don't think there's that big of an audience. Jack, I don't see them picking up Burks's 5th-year option either, but if he has a breakout year this year, things could change. Jack wants to know about Denard Wilson having Snead, Awuzie, McCreary. I'm excited. I hope they could lock down the league. It's the best cornerback group on paper that they've had in some time. So that'll be very interesting. Well, here's the thing. Jack is saying Callahan can develop Levis way better than Vrabel ever could have. I mean, Vrabel's not a quarterback developer. Vrabel's offensive coordinator and quarterback coach would have been the quarterback developers. So say what you will about Kelly and London, but those would have been the quarterback developers. Head coaches around the league who are defensive backgrounds are not generally developing quarterbacks. Just like Callahan's not going to be developing Harold Landry, who's given huge credit to Mike Vrabel for developing here. So it's a little bit of an unfair comparison. Kim Dunaway listened to me and Blaine Bishop live back in the day. All right, we'll take a couple more and we'll call it a day. Jay says, Brian Callahan and Bill will be much better for this team than Vrabel. That, of course, is the feeling now. And I feel that way right now as well. But you have to let things unfold. And you don't have to make huge proclamations in May of a rookie coach's first year. And Bill Callahan looks and sounds good. But Brian Callahan looks and sounds good. But he's not called plays in the NFL before. So how much, was Zach Taylor helping him look good? It's okay to, feel optimistic, but need to see. I don't know if it makes you a doubting Thomas because, at least what he was doubting, there was proof of in his life previously. Well, what I'm doubting here, and I like Callahan a lot, and look, the Titans have had a good offseason, but there are more reasonable causes to doubt the Titans heading into this season than there were for Thomas. It's just a fact. You don't have to know what the Titans are on May 23rd. You can't know what the Titans are on May 23rd. So if you get this highly optimistic, you potentially are setting yourself up for disappointment. If you want to do that, have at it. I think it's healthier to go into the season like I did with the Yankees. I expected them to be bad. I'm letting them surprise me. It's delightful to be surprised when your team is good, when you're not expecting it. Delightful. It's really disappointing for your team to disappoint you. It's really disappointing for your team to not meet your expectations for it. So, you're going to feel what you feel, but I think that's reasonable advice. They were a hell of a long way away from Houston last year. And there is a lot of time and stuff that has to go on between now and then. Robert asks, do I know what the league average is for fifth-year option pickups compared to the Titans the last couple of years? The Titans haven't picked up a fifth-year option in a while. It's down. Fifth-year options are not as picked up as you would expect. Yeah, Jared hears that I and Tic Tac Titan resolved our issues. I don't know who's spreading that propaganda, but I don't like to talk about the guy. It gives him credence and credibility. He's a poacher and a thief, and it's bullshit. And everybody in the press, the people aren't going to step forward and say so because they're nicer than I am. Nobody who does legitimate on the ground reporting likes it. And he likes to say that Mike Herndon and Zach Lyons do the same thing that he does. It's preposterous. It's preposterous. The guy. Think about how you'd feel in your job. I tweet out, something, or any of us tweets out something that happens at practice. Say Kenneth Murray twists his ankle at an open part of practice. So Kenneth Murray twists his ankle and goes into the locker room. Well, this guy's got a story written about it as if he's there. He lives in Ohio. Before any of the people who watched it happen and told him that it happened have a chance to write a story about it. Now, that's how media works today, but it doesn't mean that people who are legitimate media have to like it. I want him to not be able to see my stuff. If there was a way on Twitter for me to identify any account connected to him and make sure he didn't see my stuff ever, I would do it. And I said too much there acknowledging him. Jay's complaining about no national respect for the Titans. I'll tell him the same thing I tell anybody that brings this up. Who gives a shit what the nation thinks about the Titans? Why do you care? Levis on a 1 or 2 year tryout with Callahan? Everybody is. Everybody is. What Titans game am I looking forward to the most? Asks William Young. I'm grabbing the schedule. What Titans game am I looking forward to the least at Los Angeles? I've been to Los Angeles a lot. I'm not making a sightseeing trip out of it. It's a big trip for a short game. What game am I looking forward to the most? A Cincinnati game I hope is meaningful. And then, it'll be cool to see Callahan go against his own guys and old team and a Woozy and Boyd. So to me, that's maybe the best game on the schedule. At Detroit is good. I mean, these are all obvious answers. I think that the Titans probably will surprise Chicago and get some attention for those of you that feel like they're really being undersold. For everybody to think that the Bears are going to roll the Titans by 4.5 points on opening day, I think is a little much. John, if he's how you found me, I don't know how you're looking for coverage. I mean, I have more Twitter followers than anybody. I've covered the team since it was in Houston. Where are you looking for Titans coverage? That he's your entree. That's on you. Yeah, exactly. When I'm giving somebody credit, I go above and beyond. That's the standard. This guy doesn't come close to meeting the standard. A guy like that should do everything he can to try to befriend the people who are his lifeblood. Instead, he's saying people like me are going to become obsolete and people like him are going to take over the world, not getting the fact that if people like me are obsolete, there will be no information for him to talk about. So fucking stupid. All right. We have gone over an hour, which is insane. I will take one more question. I may take one more question. Let's see what we've got here. Jack is giving us his critique of all of the Titans picks, and I know we've all come to read the comments here and get Jack's attitude. Jamie Cutteridge from across the pond is here. Are you currently across the pond? I suspect you are. Cole Porter, baby. Who should replace Poch? I'm turning it on him. I mean, I got to end here, Williams. I don't mean to pick on you, William, but what kind of vibe am I getting from the Titans regime, coaches and players compared to the previous Titans regime? Does it feel like a winning foundation? Are they clueless? They're not clueless, and they weren't clueless last year. But this vibe question, like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I don't know what you expect the vibe was last year. When they lose a lot of games, the vibe gets bad. But this time last year, the vibe was great. This time of the year, the vibe virtually everywhere in the league is great. And it's not this, I don't know, you want to feel like there's some huge difference. Or maybe you're asking me to tell you that there isn't. It's not hugely different. But this kind of the vibe question is never a good question, just for your knowledge. Like, there's no big change in vibe from year to year or week to week. Now, the vibe from, winning for a month versus losing for a month obviously is different, though good teams stay upbeat through the bad times. And like Vrabel said, you reveal your true character during the difficult times. And Callahan has alluded to that same thing. But there's no big vibe. You can't put a vibe gauge out there and tell you. And certainly if there was a vibe to be felt, which I assure you there is not, we're not in the locker room right now. So we're getting the vibe from hand-selected guys who are going to give us a good vibe. The Titans are hand-feeding us the vibe and the feel that they want to give right now. Be sure to check out Zen Sports. Use code TNPaul. I appreciate it very much. Tomorrow, Friday morning, I am guest hosting Robbie and Rexroad with Robbie out. So Joe Rexroad and I for 3 magical hours from 6 to 9. Check that out on 102.5 The Game. I appreciate it. Hope you have a great Memorial Day weekend and a big time all around. Don't block the box, and be sure, please, to lock your locks. Thanks for coming. I appreciate each and every one of you. Good day, sir.